All right. Hi, everybody. Welcome to our Mosaic of Faith for this month, or this quarter, I should say. This is hosted by the Spiritual Life Team and the Wyoming Interfaith Network. And tonight we have a special guest, Paul Taylor. And we also have a dog. You can hear her in the background. I had the pleasure of working with Paul last June when he came and worked with our children at the Building Spiritual Communities Conference. And that was a really special experience because we had Paul and also Kevin Locke were working with the children, and it was just amazing to watch the two of them tell stories and interchange from the Native American culture and the Aboriginal culture. So Paul has requested that we dedicate tonight's presentation to Kevin, and he's going to speak tonight about the spiritual perspective on water, and we're very excited to hear your wisdom, Paul.
Okay. I think I'm going to start with a song, and this is a song for the rivers. And this painting here is a Aboriginal style from the desert, with the dot paintings which represent the raindrops that come and regenerate the land, but it also represents everything that walks on the land, the plants, birds, animals, insects, which are all made of water also. And this is how Aboriginal people might teach geography. So I'll try and relate this to our local geography. Doing the heartbeat rhythm for the Mother Earth. North Platte River, Colorado, Saratoga, Seminole Reservoir, Casper, Douglas, Torrington, and then it goes on, goes through Nebraska, goes to the North Platte, and then it goes to joining up with the Missouri, then it goes joining up with the Mississippi, and it ends up in the Gulf of Mexico. So this is a song for the water, for the rivers. That would be just an example, very simplified version of what is called a song line, which how right across Australia, the Aboriginal people map their land. And right now, we actually they've just been mapping over the last 10 years, they've mapped out the song line for the Seven Sisters, which is connected to Devil's Tower, and it goes right across the east, and it comes up, and then it splits into two right across here. Now, this is as big as your 48 states. So it goes through all these different, this is 250 languages and 500 distinct cultures, dialects right throughout Australia. So this went through all these major, and the languages over here are totally different to the languages here, but we are talking about 50,000 years of knowledge, the oldest living tradition in the world, right? And they lived in relative peace with each other for 50,000 years. This culture was left intact and is still being practiced today. And a lot of it was around their whole spiritual constitutional system, which was linked to land and it was linked to water, learning how to share the water was a peacemaking thing. And I'll try to give you a little bit of insight into that today. So the song goes into the ground, and then the voice goes up into the sky. So it goes to the Sky Father, the Earth Mother, when they get joined with the song, when they get married with the song. Rainbow brings the rain and gives birth to all the children, the plants, the birds, the animals, the insects. That's the creation story. In the culture where we're going to visit, in particular, I have permission to talk about the Waterman culture, which is up in this region here. And we're going to show you pictures of my Aboriginal adopted father and mentor for 30 years. So this is, I'm trying to act as a bridge here. I'm doing my best as a non-born Aboriginal person, but being mentored and spending time with Bill each year, checking on what I have been doing. And he's been over here twice, has been on campus and around the state, a special guest back in 2008 and 2011. So I brought him into the state, and he represents a link to this ancient knowledge. So right across Australia, we have this thing called the dreaming, which was a spiritual, constitutional, legal system that underpinned all these people, and they all had their own creation stories. Right across Australia, you would have 500 distinct origin stories of the kangaroo, and Aboriginal people didn't go around and say, well, my story is right and yours is wrong, mine's right. All the stories were essentially good, and they were linked to their landscape. Okay, the underpinning was this was spirit in the beginning. This was what they call the dreaming. The ancestors came down, up out of the ground, they came out of the ocean, they came from the sky, the great spiritual ancestors, and they were singing. They were singing and they were dancing and they were painting. They left paintings, they left the rituals with the people. And the rituals teach the essence of the culture, which is caring for country. And caring for country is land and water, right? They gave birth to the people. They passed those songs on. They passed the paintings, the dancing, the rituals, the songs onto the kids. The kids then went across the land, and the land was shaped. And then there was a key point in the dream time where all the spirituals, this was a spiritual time, they then became what we know to this day. And in Bill's country up here, and the details vary depending on your landscape, it was when a creation dog, who later becomes the dingo, got his ear cut by a little boy, and he howled. When he howled, the world came to still. That's the word Bill uses in his language, okay, in his English paraphrase, or his attempt at putting the spiritual dimension into English. He says everything came to still. Some people changed into kangaroos, some people changed into emus, some people became rooted in the ground to become gum trees, some people changed into insects, some people jumped into the billabongs, the springs, to become crocodiles and fishes, and some people jumped into the rock, all painted up, because everybody was painted up. All the arts were on show in the dream time, and they left their mark in the rock to teach the kids for all time the law of caring for country. And I'm going to show you some of those pictures to this day. Some of the people change into the present day people, which is us. And the job of the present day people is to look after all our relatives in the natural world, because we all come from the same beginning. And in our sciences, this is molecular biology. We know that my molecular structure is the same as the plants, the birds, the animals, the insects. I recently went into a molecular biology class. I was invited, I sat everybody in the circle, I told the creation story, and they said, this links to your science. And they said, that's what we're studying right now. Everything is all connected. We hear this in our sciences. Everything's all connected. Everything comes from the same beginning. And in astrophysics, we say we're all made of stardust as well. So it goes back to the energy of the Big Bang, and the energy of the Big Bang could then be linked to the dreaming, the spiritual, and then matter comes second. The spirit comes first and matter comes second. And we build a Western society around matter first and spirit or energy second. That's the big difference with the indigenous wisdom. It changes all your institutions when you have a spiritual underpinning to everything that you do, right? It's pretty amazing. And water is the other thing that is really key because that represents the fact that in all of creation, everything's made of water as well. So that's another link to everything. So water is sacred. Everything is sacred. All of creation is sacred, and nothing is born with original sin. Indigenous wisdom challenges the whole notion of original sin. It's original goodness. So you start with a place of goodness. It doesn't mean that somebody doesn't mess up. When they mess up, they face the consequences, but there is always, we're essentially still good. So that changes your legal system, right? When somebody messes up. And my ancestors, they had no idea of this. They got sent, they were the bad arm that was the convict labor that was sent to Australia because they were lesser than the other people and they were sent to the other side of the world. And that was the British attempt to get rid of something that they considered was lesser than. This is colonial. This was the colonial time. And of course, Aboriginal people at the time they came, you had the convicts, and then you had these Black people who were considered the lowest form of humanity in the science paradigm of the day. They were lower than African Blacks. And now all that's been challenged now because we're actually starting to, I think, accept these concepts of the dreaming and indigenous wisdom, which is everything's being challenged and turned upside down. So I'm raving. So on the boundaries, because of this system, your neighbors went right on the boundaries, and I'll show you another one here. This gives you another idea of how it works. And there's a video that I've got that's called Song Lines of Peace, and where Bill talks about the mechanisms that were built, the checks and balances that were built into this legal system to ensure peace. So you've got your river systems here, you can see, and you can see the red lines might be different clan areas, okay? They would be totems, which you would be assigned, and that's another, we can talk about that later, but that was another way of dividing the caring for the land. So you can imagine between one area, you might have the kangaroo people, and another area you've got the crocodile people, and then you've got the kookaburra people in a different region. Right on the boundaries, you see the circles, that's a sacred site, but that was a song line also, that was named by the ancestors, okay, and that's also a song. And you would go there on a walkabout and sing that country to renew it. It was all about renewal because we take from the earth. So you renew to ensure that the water comes back in balance. And so on the boundaries, that's where you came with your neighbors and you did ceremony. So you're singing, dancing, painting, and you are sweating. And you're also eating together over a period of anything from a week to a month. And if there was a conflict, you sat down and you sorted it out. And some of those sites are right on the river. So you had to sort out if somebody was taking the water, too much water, you sat down and you figured it out, and it might take a week or whatever, but there had to be consensus amongst the group. They call it a good feeling. If there was a good feeling amongst the group, then they would continue with the ceremony. If there wasn't, they wouldn't do the ceremony. So the ceremony would then enhance the peace. And that, at the time, is the same time where the kids are initiated, they're doing their graduation ceremonies, and this is where everybody is coming together and partners are being picked. The gene pool is extended with a very elaborate, incredibly sophisticated relationship system that worked right across Australia, which linked all Aboriginal people together with their brothers, mothers, sisters, aunties, daughters, or whatever, outside of age. And this was a system which we know that actually counted incest. And it's in these paintings. Now, these ones in the desert tradition was to do these on the sand, And then what you did was these were sand paintings, and then you danced on top of the sand. And again, the intent is to regenerate the land, to fill those rivers. If you get the right amount of water, everything is in balance. If everything's in balance, all the mums have healthy children, plants, birds, animals, people. And this is ecology. So they're practicing ecology, putting a song in the ground, and the voice goes up to the sky. At the same time, you are destroying the painting, but that's not the intention of the ritual. It is about the regeneration, the intention. And that was the desert tradition, okay, that happened. And in Bill's country, it was a little bit different. And I'll talk a little bit more about that too. I think what I'll show is, I might show you a video now of Bill, seeing I've talked about it enough. Is everything okay? Any questions? And we'll have time for questions at the end too. So this is where I've done 30 years of dedicated research, and with American Philanthropy, I put it into a teaching chapter. This is my honors course that I teach at the university. And down here, you've got these chapters, the video chapters. So we go to the law. And there I was already there. And this is called the water clearance ceremony. Hopefully that. Okay, so we'll have to get our Bluetooth connected again. That's correct. Yeah, perhaps. Yeah. So this is, we're at a spring where we were doing research and we were documenting. And Bill had a young teenager who was given to him, sent to him by the legal system, the Western legal system, and he used to take in kids because the Western legal system didn't work. And they spent 6 months shadowing him and in traditional law, and he changed kids' lives. And so he's a proponent of this traditional legal system. Is that? Yeah, we're on. That should be connected. The old man is now 92. This is when he was about 82.
Oh yeah. What are they, right? And come up now, yeah. And what are we at? What are we going on? This is keeping them clean. We're not making shade. Like it, please come back. You're going to get on right here, like it. See? Yeah, we're going to get Sunday and but we just got to look here. Right? Now, I brought a young boy here with me to show him in a special spring. This is a special spring. All these trees are recognized in our creation story. It's all part of the human. Now today, they're the old people living in the spring, under the water. And all old ladies are part of the pandemic you see it over there. Stay upstream here a bit. And they're all listening when we brought this young boy here to give him a clearing. We call that an Aboriginal name called Iwana. Iwana means he's a young teenage boy. And to give him a clearance through this streaming from the water. To wet his head, you got to spit the water out. I got to tap his head in the water. And that's giving him a clearance. And when he gets clear with that, in that way, because he's a new one, when we give him a clearance, he's ready to go as a free man for marriage and all these other. When he gets married, he's already clean. He don't get into trouble anymore. So this is why we give him a clean and wedding his head. You know, when he gets married, he don't have trouble anyway. And now I'm gonna give him cup of water, bien, put it up. I gave him this cup of water. Like this. I didn't make it get on better. Then I gave him this cup of water. He got to put him in his mouth with Joe music, and you rinse him out and spit him at the water. He sort of covered in that water and spit him out. One more, yeah. Now with that same water, I gotta put a little bit in the hand and then tap his head like this. To wet his head that way. He don't get sick or anything like that. And I gotta call out to the old people with my language. Maluka, tanong yung ngayon lugan niya, hindi nyo kuyawa. Kuyawan. Lugan na, tanong nyo yun, tanong kay imong niya, lahat ba nyo yung baro, kuyaw. Ngabon lugan niya, lahat ng kuni. Ano mo, yo, the Bible, inguan on one ngao, taking it. And Jagaluan, Taulan, England, and that's when he get married. England may get married. He's free now from the water, he is free. See? And night time, when he goes to sleep, he won't dream any that spirit. He's right now. Because this water now happening in the head to keep him asleep. And that's the other one monk. And all these three, they're all people. All of the name is all old ladies. And they're all here underneath the water. And they're giving him okay now. And there it is now. Maybe you can get up. You can go back, get on now. And he's right now. There. And you always can him anyway. That's good. Yeah.
So there's a lot of clear correlations with a lot of other religious stuff there. He had to look at his shadow. That was a big part of it in the water. And what I was talking about, the creation story. This is, I tell my students that you can think of it as metaphor, but for Indigenous people, I've got this quote by Natalie Diaz, and she says, and she's a Mojave. And she says, I carry a river. It is who I am. Aha maka in our language. And this is not a metaphor. This is literally how Indigenous people see the connection. And it goes back to that creation story where you are the river, you are the tree, you are the insect. They are literally what Kevin would say to all my relatives. Okay. And it's built into that uniquely built into the creation stories of all Indigenous people all over the world. And I think it's really, we can learn from this right now, and everything's sacred. And what does that mean? You know, but it goes back to these, when you have that story connection, literally you believe, Bill believes that my eyeball is that's my billabong on my, that's the spring, and that's the eyeball of rainbow, which is also the spring in the country right there. All the springs are the eyeball of rainbow feeding it. And if you saw the video I showed at the Water is Life part 1, where Bill told the whole creation story of a spring. And he said, as long as we keep doing the ceremony that's associated with this creation story, rainbow will keep feeding this spring, and there's water for everybody for all time. And that's the caring for country, is to do the ceremonial tradition. And as Aboriginal people and Indigenous people say, at least somebody's doing it. They say, we're going to keep doing it, and they're not going to die out. There are traditional people doing these ceremonies as we speak, and that they believe is the underpinning of keeping the balance on the land. So we are lucky they are still with us. I'll give you, this is like a poem that she wrote about the Colorado River, and it just appeared, this came across my desk this week. So the first water is the body. The Colorado River is the most endangered river in the United States. It's right in the news. Also, it is part of my body. That's what she says here. And I might just quote a few things as we go through in between some stories. Translated into English, aha makav means the river runs through the middle of our body the same way it runs through the middle of our land. Here we go. We carry the river, its body of water, in our body. The word for drought is different across many languages and lands. The ache for thirst, though, translates to all bodies along the same paths: the tongue, the throat, the kidneys, no matter what language you speak, no matter what color of your skin. I mean, river is as a verb, a happening. It is moving within me right now. And this is that sacredness of water. Energy is a moving river, moving my moving body. So I will go on. Anybody want to say anything while I transition? We'll go back to this map. I love this map. As a teaching, we talk about inclusion and diversity and honoring diversity. And then we had 500 different groups, and they figured a way to how to live together without destroying each other. And 50,000 years, cultures were going up and down. You know, the Assyrian Empire, as Monty Python used to say, was going up and down, you know, and Aboriginal people, and they had conflict. Conflict is real. And so they just had mechanisms, checks and balances that were built into it. And it all goes back to land, caring for your land. And they had when you are so spiritually tied to your piece of land, you had no real desire to invade somebody else's land, because all your creation story was so tied, and your whole spiritual being was tied to that piece of land. If you went to the neighbors, you didn't know where the springs were, but in your culture, you knew. Bill's got 1 million acres where I go and visit him, which is about 1/3 of his traditional land. He knows where every spring is on there. He walked that as a kid, and then he was a stockman when my ancestor came and forced his people into slavery, which officially we never had slavery, but we did in Australia. And Bill has recently went on national television and talked about reparations, which is all because that conversation happened in America, right? The whole civil rights movement in America affected my whole education. I wouldn't be sitting here if it wasn't for the American civil rights movement and what I'm doing. And it's been really interesting to see what is happening in this country, how everything is shifting. Everything's shifting. We think it's all negative, but there's actually an incredible shift going on right now. And it's having repercussions all over the world. So there's a lot of really negative things. There's a lot of positives that are actually happening, because I think we're challenged. And in the old people would say, we have to follow the laws of the dream time, even without technology and everything. If they're not earth friendly, if they're not in aligned with the Mother Earth, they will eventually go. Hopefully we don't destroy this landscape too quickly. So there is always hope, and everything that it's a natural progression. We are evolving. We're in the shift, the great emergence, or whatever the consciousness movements are all called. Everybody's calling it something different. And Indigenous elders, they know what's going on. The Aboriginal elders, they say there's an awakening. They call it awakening. And one came on national television through one of the elders are now speaking through the young ones who are articulate and educated, and saying, if you're not ready for it, get out of the way. That was recently on national television. So we're actually doing pretty good. Where am I going? Here's Bill. That's that millionaire, Savannah Bush. I'll go back to the full screen. No? Didn't know. Where am I going? Okay. And here's a picture of rainbow. So I'm going to show you a series right across Australia. Water was represented through the rainbow snake, the rainbow serpent. And in the Lakota, I've sat down with Kevin and had these amazing conversations about the Lakota, particularly around Standing Rock. They talk about Unshekila, Unshehila was this massive serpent that lives in the billabongs, lives in the springs, was 100 horses long from head to tail, had a flaming red mane, and it had multicolored rainbow spots down its flanks, and it lived in the water holes. Just amazing correlations, and they have their own, the Lakota have their own unique story about how to, there was one, and I won't go into it right now, but right across the world, the serpents in the billabongs is pretty common. And here we have rainbow. Rainbow is male and female. For Bill, you had rainbow came from the core of the earth, and he made the oceans. And when he made the oceans, he fell in love with Dung Dung, who was the Earth Mother, and she was living in the water at the time. They got married and had all the children in the water, and everybody lived in the water. Then Dung Dung sang and made the land. She hopped up onto the land. When she did, a long, tall, skinny fella up in the sky saw her. He came down with his spiderweb string rope, and they immediately took a liking to each other, as Bill says. Sometimes he says they got mated up. Sometimes he says that, and then he says they got married, and they had all the children on the land. There were children on the land and children in the water. Rainbow comes out, makes the rivers. The father and the mother are teaching the kids the songs of caring for the land, the paintings, the dances, the rituals. And then when they do the ritual, the two get married, the father and the mother get married. With the song, with the ritual that marries the two, the earth and the sky are joined, and rainbow brings the right amount of rain. Not the flood, not the drought, but the right amount of rain to keep the balance on the land. And so rainbow is male and female. And here's the lightning that comes out of his headdress. And I'll show you this next one. This is a pretty amazing place. And this doesn't do it justice, because this is about 30 meters, and that's about 20 meters this way. Okay, and all the seeds of life are inside of rainbow, our food. Okay, everything that's inside here. And the two have children. So you have this contemporary painting here where Bill now paints contemporary wise, and you have the children of rainbow, the son and the daughter. And when the rivers in Bill's creations myth on his land, the black-headed python and the water python, they make the rivers and they wrap themselves like the double helix, and they go through, which is the icon for our medicine. Okay, that double snake movement. Okay, that goes through the country. So rainbow is making the water, brings the water, all the water through the country. Here's another picture of rainbow, which is up from another region. And here we got the serpent's, classic serpent's head, and lives in the billabongs. After the laws were created, when everything came to still, rainbow went into the billabongs. He's in it. Wherever there's water, there's rainbows there. He's in all of us. And whenever there's a big storm, you can see the lotus petals. So he lives in the billabongs, and then he shoots up through the sky and jumps into another billabong many miles away. So when the Aboriginal kids are growing up, they see the rainbow, they say, that's the rainbow serpent. Very careful not to disturb those water holes where rainbow lives, okay? They camped away. They didn't go up as Westerners wouldn't camp right next to the water. They always kept away from that water, okay? Which were these protective devices for your water, okay? And so whenever they see that rainbow, that's a reminder to always share the water. Don't be greedy with the water. So this is called the Bush University, where when everything changed, because of all this, everything's got a story. That's a reminder of how you should behave, how your legal system works. It's all embedded in the natural world, and it's also up in the stars as well. This is the Sky Father, and this is his parachute sail. It's like a spider web, and he can come up and down from up top. He's the boss of the stars, I can relate to him, long, tall, skinny fella. He's called Nadi for Bill. Now, Bill doesn't call him the Sky Father or the Earth Mother. But when we correlate, as we were traveling, we did shows together, and he would tell the story and I would act as a bridge, and he would go. So we had this active exchange, and he started incorporating, like, Nadi, he's the father, and then Dum Dum, she's the mother. So it was pretty interesting to see the effect, because I was trying to articulate this, because when he would tell the story, you tell all the details. You can't do it. I would say to him, Bill, we've got 10 minutes. They want us out of here in 10 minutes. Can you do an overview of the creation story? And he'd just look at me as if say, white fella, you just don't get it. Anyway, but he learned how to sit, and so I would synthesize for him and make a bridge. So it was the bridge of understanding into a Western mindset, because these stories are learned over a lifetime. We're just scratching the surface, but there's multiple meanings embedded in each one of these stories. So old Skyfire, he was the one who came down. Next one, let's go. Let's see Dulgul. There's old Earth Mother. She's almost got a mustache, so she's like a catfish there. So old Dulgul. And those two, had a liking to each other, and they got married. Everybody was living on the land. And then what happens? Oh, here we go. Now, this is one of his contemporaries. This is at the University of Sydney. So Bill does these interpretations in his way as somebody who can't read or write. He's authored about 4 books, because the researchers we just documenting, okay. And then he does these magnificent paintings. So this is about 20 foot long here, okay. And he paints these on the ground. No design. It's all in his head, right? So here's old Rainbow, and here's the lore of the Sky Father. Here's the lore of the Earth Mother, and Rainbow's the link between the two. Now he's got a kangaroo's head, because this is an interesting part. There's another dimension of the story. When the Sky Father and the Earth Mother have all the children on the land, Rainbow's out in the water with all his kids, and he can hear all this noise going on, and they're singing and dancing, and they're doing the Wonga ceremony. Okay, and I'll do that little Wonga ceremony for you in a second. And then Rainbow says, what's going on? So he sticks his head out, and then he takes an abalone shell and he disguises himself as a kangaroo, and he comes onto the land, hides behind the bush. Have you heard this story, Ron? No. Hides behind the bushes, and then he sees Frogley, and he charges through the bush. He says, Frogley, what's going on here? You're supposed to be married to me. What are all these kids doing here? And Frogley says, hang on, Rainbow, why can't we have 2 lots? We'll have kids in the water and kids on the land. And Rainbow says, no, I want everybody back in the water. He then goes back to the ocean, and he sings a big spiritual song. Jalingi, jalingi, ja, na, jalingi, jalingi, ja, na, and all the kids start running. Rainbow brings up the floodwaters, and the sea comes in onto the land, and everybody's running. And then the father comes down, and he is so tall, the floodwaters only come up to his waist. So he's like able to walk on, as Bill says, walk on top of the water, and he grabs the kids and the people and puts them all up on the high ground. They get together on the high ground. Rainbow's bringing the water up, and they call a meeting. They said, we better do something. This is when the bird people, who are human like us, but later become the birds, they're really good at making tools. And they say, Willie Wagtail, who's a wren, says, I'll make some spears. We'll spear Rainbow, and we'll drive away the flood. And they say, that's a great idea. So they make some spears, and Rainbow's swimming around. They throw the first spear. They cut his tail off, and they don't kill him. Rainbow gets really cranky, brings the floodwaters up. They go up even higher. They throw the second spear, cut him in the middle, and then they go up to the highest point. You got me up on the screen there. Here we go. We do a bit of drama here. And then he throws a third spear, and this was thrown by the falcon, the peregrine falcon, which is the fastest thing on Earth. He throws the spear like a shooting, and he's in charge of inventing the shooting star as well. and he throws the spear, hits Rainbow right in the back of his head, chops his head off, and his eyeballs go shooting up out of his body, and they land about 5 kilometers away, and they change into the springs in that country. And all the flood waters go down, and Rainbow sheds his skin. The father then brings all the kids down on the muddy earth, and they leave their footprints in the muddy earth. And if you go out to the rock art, you can see proof of the story. There's the footprints of all the kids, okay? And then they go, the father took them to the place where Rainbow shed his skin. You see the first cut, the second cut, and you see the head of Rainbow. All proof of this story. And then there's a picture in the rock art that is also proof. And these are the books that tell of this great flood that came to the land. And Bill says, these are older than your books, Paul. Which is right, they're 10,000 years old. And we know in our science that 10,000 years ago, the sea rose and flooded the land. There's hundreds of different unique creation stories of a flood that go back 7 to 10,000 years. And the academics have not been listening to them for many years because they say that's a story that's going to change in 200 or 300 years. They're now doing the research, and they found that the mechanism built into the culture was the grandparents teaching the little kids. They kept the stories true. It was like a peer review, and the stories were carried on for thousands of years, the same story, which is pretty incredible. So they had these mechanisms. When everything changed and came to still, all the people went up into the sky. So the constellations are proof, another proof of the creation story. And the major ancestors went up into the sky. Here's Rainbow. He goes all the way along here. And when he got cut, this is another step. That's the black-headed python. That's one of his children. Okay, so the whole sky is unique to his story. Now, the neighbors next door will look at the same constellations, and they'll have their own unique story that links to their landscape. But Bill doesn't go and say, well, ours is right. You got the wrong story, mate. And they're all okay. Everything, it was respect. This taught respect for somebody else's story, which is amazing. The sky mother, yeah, well, there's the pointers. That's the eyes of the serpent. And when you get up and you see that and you focus on the dark areas, that's where the great spirituals are, in the dark matter. And that's where science is now looking at where creation started. And Bill says the creators are in the dark matter. We'll see. This doesn't really show up too well. There's Rainbow, there's Dum-Dums over here. We have the Southern Cross in the middle, and then you have the Sky Father over here. It doesn't do it justice, this slide. But I do a whole planetarium show, so I sometimes do it here and show how this whole creation story links up to the sky. So you've got 24-hour education, all right? At nighttime, during the day, you've got the dreaming sky. Everything in the natural world is a story. And at nighttime around the campfire, the elders can use the stars as a link to the story. So you pay attention. That's the big key, and that's the pay attention song, which is linked to the Wonga song, which is and I just went into a school in Rock Springs. I had 200 kids. We were all singing the pay attention song. We did a big show, and as we transitioned from one thing to the other, the whole school was singing. It was beautiful. And that was considered rubbish music when I was growing up in my Catholic school in Adelaide, with my uniform, with my socks up. And Paul Taylor, keep your socks up. And they used to beat us with straps and whack us on that was the old system. The Western system. Let's go. We're moving on. So here's another proof of that story. Rainbow with his kangaroo's head. The Sky Father comes down. Floodwaters only come up to his waist. He saves everybody. If you saw this painting, you'd probably have no idea. And that's up, links up into the sky with this whole story. The Father's up in the sky. So this is right in the Milky Way as well. So it links. It's pretty incredible, this whole story. And here's proof of the story. Another proof of the story is in the very landscape. This is where Bill used to play his kid. That's the tail rainbow where the first spear hit. And this was one of his play areas. That's called Mordolia, which is rainbow's tail. Okay. This is where the second spear hit. Okay. And there he is talking about the second spear. Then if you walk on top, it's like the backbone of a rainbow. More proof of the story. Then you get to the place where the head of rainbow is. That was many years ago. I got my old cricket hat on there. And then if you go up in the sky, you can actually see the whole story. There's the tail, first, second cut, there's the head. Okay, and it goes up, it's like this. There we go. Where the final spear was thrown, it's shaped. This is Mount Gregory, which is shaped like a spear point. This is called gestalt, I think, if we were doing academics, and where they threw that spear. So the whole story is in the landscape. Okay. And then the Lightning Brothers. This is about 12 foot tall. That's Jabaringi and his brother Yagikuru. Okay. And this is a whole science lesson in cloud formation, monsoonal rains, two types of lightning, sheet lightning that lights up. He's the one who does sheet lightning. He's painted white, but he also he sends the clouds across the country. That's why he's white. This is the big rain that comes down. And his brother Yagikula's got two stone axes, Jabaringi, Yagikula. Here's the two stone axes together. He creates the fork lightning that creates the bushfires that clean up the country. The fire, the coal burn system was brought by these two, where Aboriginal people were very active in their landscape. They burned, they did a series of coal burns to protect the land from the hot burns that were always going to come. And we're learning this now in our landscapes all over the world because we're having hot burns that are so destructive. And we did a video, we've got one where Bill's talking about all this. And during our great bushfires 3 years ago, that video went all over Australia. And so we're starting to listen to this science, their Indigenous science of these elders. And it's all in the rock art. And it's the, Bill would say, that's the spirituals, you know. There they are there. You can see a little bit. So here we have the lightning represents the penis, okay? It comes down and makes love to the Mother Earth. This is the erotic version, okay? And that's the electricity you get from the father and you get your body from the mother and you jump inside. The children come down and I'll show you pictures in a sec. We'll go. So we takes this, Bill takes this story of the rain and he's a grasshopper man. That's his totem. And he's got a special design. It's copyrighted to the grasshopper people. So the kangaroo people have their designs. They paint themselves up for the ceremonies. And so the grasshopper is again connected. There's one little grasshopper that actually makes a little whirlwind, is connected to a whirlwind. And I got Bill together with Jeffrey Lockwood when he was here, and they exchanged notes about the role of grasshoppers, 10 different species of grasshoppers, and what their role was in the environment. We're talking about 50,000 years of knowledge. And Jeffrey was taking notes the whole time. There was going to be a book there, but he got busy, right? And it's all in the rock. It would have been incredible. But anyway, these are the raindrops. But it also represents the grasshopper footprints, because that grasshopper is really important for spreading the wind that spreads the clouds across the country, so you don't get a drought here or a flood here. It's ecology again, so they're spreading it. And that's what the ceremony is all about. And here they are. Here's the boy. So this is the Wonga ceremony. So the boys are literally, they're kicking up the dust, and the more the boys kick up the dust, that's the spirit of your mother, right? The girls come out. The boys and the girls are working together. Now, the girls were pretty shy, so they wouldn't get painted up, right? And there was a lot of throwing, or the boys were getting painted up. There was all this going back and forth. Ah, look at you. And they were teasing them and everything. Anyway, so they put eucalyptus on the head. That's the girls' job, is to come out and they take eucalyptus and they connect to the father. The girls connect to the father. The boys connect to the mother, stamping the feet. When the two get married with a song, rainbow brings the right amount of rain. That's called the Wonga ceremony, and that's the song that goes with it. Voice goes up into the sky, and Bill, in our conversations now, Bill tells me that the foot stamping goes into the mother, and he says, but it's really letting Rainbow know that we are caring for the earth, because Rainbow is much more than just, is multidimensional. Rainbow is the core energy of the earth, right? To keep that balance, if we don't care for the earth, Rainbow will bring, there's the rivers, Rainbow can bring that tornado, that hurricane, to make us understand, to pay attention to the land. So we're dealing with an incredible force. So a lot of these ceremonies are letting Rainbow know that we're carrying out the law, that vibration's going down. And it's all connected to water. Incredible stuff. And there's a whole moon. The law for regeneration was all connected to the moon, because what does the moon do? He dies and he comes back. And he reminds us when things die, excuse me, they come back. And if you, excuse me, if you count how many sections are in that headdress, you'll get about 28, 29, 30. This is the science of the moon cycle. And moon, again, these stories work on many different levels. The moon is associated with love magic, okay? Moon ran off with his mother-in-law, and you don't run off with your mother-in-law. So the spirituals broke the law, and that's how the laws were set, because that's how they teach the kids. So your spiritual entities weren't pure like in some of the Christian entities, right? So moon runs off with his mother-in-law. The people get together and they say, he's broken the law, we've got to do something. They take a cheeky yam, which is a spicy yam, they put a song on it, they feed it to Moon, and he eats it and he doesn't wake up. Then they notice that night his shadow leaves his body, goes up into the sky, and he's got like a half moon. He's got a big headdress filled with water. And each night they notice that the headdress starts tipping, and some of the water goes into the ocean. It comes in closer to the shore. And each night they tips it a little bit more, and he gets skinnier and skinnier, skinnier, until all they can see is his bones around the outside. And they can see his shadow in the middle, and they says, Moon's died. And they all sat down, even though he'd broken the law, they all cried for Moon. They sat down and they cried. And then 2 days later, they noticed Moon started to pull the water back into his headdress, and he started getting fatter. And the water on the coastline started going out. As he pulled the water in, he got fatter and fatter. And they said, Moon's died and he's come back. And that'll be the law from now on. When you die, you are reborn, okay? The day would die and the night is born. The night dies and the day. This is when the cycle, the spring, the winter, summer, winter, fall, the cycle of the seasons all started. And also they said that the people, when you die, you come back, and this is where you go to, which is very interesting here. Bill makes this connection. So here's the Southern Cross, and here's the head of the mother right there. The shoulders come down here. When you see, if you go to Australia and you see that you focus on the Southern Cross and you see those shadows, the father and the mother right next to the Southern Cross, and you'll see, and they come right down on, you'll never look at the sky again the same way. These huge spiritual characters, and Rainbow goes right across to the northern hemisphere. So if you go out tonight and you look, you'll see the river of life, which is Rainbow, and it goes right through the Milky Way, and it's like a river. It goes right across the Milky Way. So this is the mother here, the head, okay, and that's called the coal sack too, okay. And her shadow. So she's sort of on the side. So her silhouette goes right down the horizon here. And this is the eyeballs of Rainbow here, and this is the Southern Cross. And Bill says, Paul, that's a little bit like your Christian cross, isn't it? That's where you go to when you die. Ah, when you're reborn. It's a little bit like that Easter festival that you had recently too, isn't it? Which is pretty interesting. And here's the proof. This is what you look like when you come back. When you're reborn, you come down with a falling star. And these are the spirit children. This is what all the spirit children look like. They could be plants, birds, animals, insects. Your totem, if you're given a totem, you could come back as your totem because they're literally your relative. You're a kangaroo person. You might come back as a kangaroo the next time in their belief system. That's why you care for them. Right? And so these are all the spirit children and the little kids. And each one has a special gift. And there's nothing wrong with any of them. That includes all of the creation, right? This is proof. And here's the electricity that they get from the Father. And then the kids, according to the story, the kids then come onto the land. They actually go into the springs first, and Rainbow feeds them the first food. Their first food is the green algae at the bottom of the billabong. And then when their tummy's full, he says, go out and find your mum and dad. So they say, the kids will spy on their parents that hide behind the bushes. They'll check them out and say, those two over there, they're pretty good for me. I think I'm going to go to them. The father gets a signal that the baby's about to jump inside the mum. Okay. And when the baby jumps inside the mum, then she's in her billabong. Okay. And the electricity comes together with the mother earth, with the body inside the water. And they're your three creators. The father, the electricity from the father, the body from the mother, all happening inside the rainbow. So I tell the kids, you can't blame your parents for anything because you picked them out. Is this your daughter? There you go. See, so kids who are adopted come up to me after I do it. So I say, I was adopted. What happens? What about me? And I always say, well, when you're in the dreaming, in the spiritual, you can see the past, the present, the future. And you can see, I might have to go through this mum to get to this mum. And they go, oh, okay. No worries. There you go. This is my favorite place to go to. These are also called the lightning babies. That is the electricity, the spirit. You could say, if we were the scientists, the energy from the Big Bang. And where that comes from, that's up to anybody's story, whatever they want to.
Well, I have a question.
Yeah.
That one. Would the children here have the same headdress that the moon did a few pictures back?
Yeah,
Is
a lot
that
of
the story?
it's almost like a halo. It could be some of the scientific or alien theories say these were the helmets of the aliens that came down. So there's been very many. These are quite famous paintings, rock art paintings that have been floating around. Because Bill opened up his country to interpretation some time ago, but you couldn't stop that interpretation. So that's been.
Thank you.
The Lightning Brothers, yeah. There they are, the spirit children. And this is one of his contemporary paintings. Now, this is the earth spinning. So this is the grass straw, because he's a grasshopper man. And the grass straw was invented by the grasshopper. And so here it is spinning, and this is your black hole. This is where you go to when you are reborn. You go through this up into the Milky Way, and then you come back through when you're reborn. Okay, and our job is to keep the balance. This is the balance on the land. Okay, keep everything so we get the right amount of rain, and everything is in abundance. And the Father is up here. He's walking along the Milky Way. He's up in that sky. You can't really see him. Bill says you can't see him because of the smoke. But when we care for the land, he smiles. That's what it says. And this is the Lord. How are we doing for time? I think we're going to, it's 8 o'clock.
Yeah, it's 8 o'clock.
So this is another one of his contemporary paintings. The kids come to school. There's always a ceremony. They come in from the 4 directions. They're called in with a message stick. This is a message stick. They line up. They come in. And there's a big ceremony. This is the caring for country, which is the principal law, and this is the law of the billabong, the eyeball of rainbow. They learn to share the water from day one, to care for the water. And also when they have, this is because this is such serious business, when the kids get to their body change, when they're 13, 14, they do the initiation ceremonies, and there's a cutting involved. There's a pain ritual, and they cut them on the shoulders. So that's what the 3 cuts are. If you've been a good kid, you get a shallow cut. If you've been a medium kid, you get a medium cut. And if you've been a bit of a naughty kid, they cut you a little bit deeper to make you understand, because this is really serious. Business is to do those ceremonies, to keep the balance on the land, and that was survival. And so when that cutting happens, you go into the billabong, and that's where the didgeridoo is played along with the water, and that's the medicinal aspect of water, which is a key to the health system. Again, we need water to clean our bodies. If we didn't have that water, we would all be sick. So it's really a foundation. Anyway, it goes on and on and on. There we go. That's the website. So a lot of these, I've got these series of video chapters, and it's all Bill. It's not me at all. And it's all transcribed. So you can use it as a case of study. And the whole creation story is in broken into sections. And I'm going to stop. But thank you very much for listening. There we go.
We have a few minutes for questions and answers. If anybody has anything they want to ask.
And I rolled this out in a classroom on fabric. So I put it on the floor, and this is what happens if you run away from school. That means you break the law, and there are consequences. And the teachers go, very good, Paul.
I'm wondering if they still use in their governmental system put the spiritual aspect over the material, like you said.
Well, everything's all mixed up now, but there are places in Australia where this is. I would never say the culture. You know, people come up to me and say, "Oh, Aboriginal culture is dead," or whatever. It's alive, it's living, and it will continue. And it's just it's transitioning. So, like the rituals associated with death would traditionally go over 2 years. And so they're adapting, they come together, and maybe they do it over a number of months instead. But you take the bones of the person and you sing them to make sure that they're reborn. And that's why you have on the movies from Australia, they say this movie, just a warning to Aboriginal and Torres Strait Islander people, this movie may contain images of deceased, and it's just a warning because they will get really distressful, because you're not supposed to say somebody's name or whatever, so that they want them to continue on their journey. So and getting bones back is a really big thing, as it is here, right? So, but that's an example. I'm going off on a tangent, but there are areas in Australia where the ceremonies are still being practiced. It's not exactly as in the traditional, but the cultures, the intentions are still there.
And the government system still looks like it, you know, you said they were basically born good. And so it impacted how
the legal system
and how they were treated if they got in trouble.
And there's some, like Bill has, because he's got high status, so he takes some of the kids and he does traditional law with them and works in conjunction with the Western law, because it doesn't work. We have a lot of deaths in custody. When Aboriginal kids get locked up, they find a way to kill themselves, and we haven't solved it. We've been dealing with it for 20 or 30 years.
Well, think of the indigenous kids in North America who died in all the church schools from the 1800s and 1970s. Yeah,
all this stuff is coming out. You know, our Prime Minister apologized 10 years ago for taking Aboriginal kids away from them, ripping them out of their families, away from their mothers. We did it systematically right through until 1970, until the American Civil Rights Movement came to Australia, and that was challenged. And Bill's sister was taken away because Bill's father is an Irishman, So any kids with lighter skin were seen as more intelligent than full bloods. We won't be able to save them, but we can actually integrate the lighter skin ones into the major population. But ironically now, those children that were taken away are now leading the political, they're confronting the major culture, and they're articulate and they're educated. And now they're being reconnected. A lot of them are starting to be reconnected back to their traditional people like Bill. And if you've got a Bill who can inform you, if you've got that link to the ancient past, it's very powerful for these kids. And it's happening. Everything's all being mixed up. There's good things that are happening, but at the same time, it's devastating. Yeah.
So on that map that you showed at the beginning,
Yeah.
how do they determine the territory sizes?
How did they determine the territories?
Mhm.
They figured out, Bill, I've got recorded a boundary song. So the kids learned the boundaries, they went and singing. So it was done through song. Everything was sung in the beginning. And so song is actually the other element that holds matter together. They would say it's the song, which we know you could see as energy or vibration. So it's another level of meaning. And so I practiced that in my residencies in the school. Like last week, the kids learn about 8 songs. They're singing the whole time, and the joy that comes out, and they remember it for the rest of their life. And we learn everything from Waltzing Matilda to Botany Bay, which is a convict song, to Aboriginal songs, and we're singing and dancing. We're celebrating our place. You celebrate where you are. And when I go into school, I always say, you turn the tap on, where does that water come from? And then we make the didgeridoos, and the didgeridoo is a trumpet of rainbow. So that is, when we play that didgeridoo, it's going to help to fill the Green River, which is the water that comes into the Rock Springs communities. And the Green River feeds the Colorado, and Colorado's endangered right now, but they just came to an agreement. I think that was the latest news. Pretty amazing.
Do we have any questions online, Jordan?
I'll go back to the Mojave. I could find another quote. If I was created to hold the Colorado River, to carry its rushing inside me, if the very shape of my throat, of my thighs, is for wetness, how can I say who I am if the river is gone? A phrase popular or more known to non-natives during the Standing Rock encampment was, water is the first medicine. It is true. We cannot live good, we cannot live at all without water. And it goes on. This is pretty interesting. The Wanganui River in New Zealand now has the same legal rights of a human being. In India, the Ganges and the Yamuna rivers now have the same legal status of a human being. That's indigenous thinking. The creation story, they're all human. Slovenia's constitution now declares access to clean drinking water to be a national human right. While in the United States, we are tear gassing and rubber bulleting and kenneling natives trying to protect their water from pollution and contamination at Standing Rock in North Dakota. We have yet to discover what the effects of lead contaminated water will be on the children of Flint, Michigan, who have been drinking it for years. You want some more? My elder says, cut off your ear and you will live. Cut off your hand and you will live. Cut off your leg and you can still live. Cut off our water, we will not live more than a week. There we go.
Thank you very much, Paul.
Thank you. Thanks for listening. Yeah.